What are you looking for? What are you getting at?
What's that?
I said, you're looking for something. What are you getting at?
Oh, no, there's something so this paper doesn't fall down.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. So,
We're also on Zoom, so we have some people tuning in.
okay, great. Ready to go?
Absolutely.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Derek Carrito. I'm here from the Philadelphia Housing Authority, along with Wayne Blackstock, who is our mobility coordinator, and Tanisha Middleton, who is our supervisor of owner services. I'm the director of owner services and eligibility, and really excited to be here today, and happy to share about our program, and hopefully we can collaborate and it will meet some of your needs and some of our needs as well. So just a little bit about PHA. We provide housing and rental assistance to over 80,000 low-income Philadelphians and living in more than 30,000 housing units in Philadelphia. And over 19,000 of those are in the HCV program. So that's the Housing Choice Voucher Program, formerly Section 8, if you've heard of that before. It's that's the program that we represent here and that we're here to kind of discuss with you all here. And anyone joining us online as well. So we work with really 5,000 private landlords on the HCV program, and we pay out over $12 million each month in rental assistance payments. So it's really exciting for us to be here to look at a new opportunity to collaborate with owners and property managers, because it's really important for us to service the voucher holders in Philadelphia. We need to have a housing stock that is available to them and to have available units that are able that we're able to show and to lease people up with. And I think Wayman made a connection here that some of y'all at Keller Williams are looking to get into rental as well. And so we're really pleased to kind of see the interest in our program and to give some information today and speak about that. So some of the benefits that we have for being on the HCV program as an owner, just really we have timely rental payments that are going to be coming through. So every first of the month, we have our check run that comes out that pays the PHA portion. Most of the time, there's another portion as well that the tenant would have to pay as well, but consistently, that PHA will be making those payments on a regular basis. And then we have really a pool of prospective tenants as well that are holding vouchers and are looking and shopping for units, so they're ready to go. It may be some prospective tenants that may not have been in your pool of clients already based on income, but with the subsidy attached to their voucher would make them eligible candidate for one of the properties that you're representing. So I think that wider pool and having them ready to go as well is a big advantage of this. And then we have really new streamlined processes as well for leasing people up. And that just helps everything to be efficient and to minimize vacancy losses as well on your end. So some of the things that we are doing to incentivize landlords and to put new units on the program are to be giving financial incentives. So for new units that are coming on, we have $300 sign-on bonuses just for a unit that can house a voucher client. And when they lease up after the lease up, that's when those sign-on bonuses will be paid out. And then we also have a housing opportunity program where we are able to pay higher rents, because this is a program designed to bring people into different neighborhoods that may have less poverty rates, more opportunities for employment, income, and safer neighborhoods as well. So for that, we can actually do 120% of what our fair market rents are. And that allows some of the owners to get realistic rents of the private market and for us to be able to match those comparables, which is exciting for us to be able to do that and participate in that way, and then make some really great stories for the tenants that we have and be able to change their life circumstances as well. So Wayne can tell you a little bit more about the HOT program in a minute, but with that, there's a $1,000 sign-on bonus for those qualifying properties there. And that's based on the census tract that the property is in and the poverty level there and some other things as well. So there
is it up to $1,000 or just $1,000?
$1,000 for qualifying for the HOT program, the Housing Opportunity Program. And then just a normal unit that's not in that program would be $300. Yeah. So this is cool really to be with realtors. This is kind of a first for us to say, how can we collaborate in this way? And that's exciting for us to think of new partners and how we could really help each other towards a common goal. So with that in mind, we have really kind of streamlined our processes, making everything online, for submitting paperwork, for getting your payment registers, being able to view that, any changes of family's income, anything related to the rents, really everything's very easily accessible there. Which makes our turnaround time for lease up really quickly too, because we're collecting the documents straight in our portal. We're able to file them right away and get them processed. So, and then another thing is the inspections that we have to do. We do have to inspect units prior to having a tenant in there. But in order to streamline that process, we are able to pre-inspect the unit. So to have it ready, that will be valid for 60 days prior to submitting a request for tenancy approval. That's the form basically saying we have a tenant that we want to put in this unit. And if that pre-inspection is still good, then that streamlines the process there as well. Now, outside of that, really, our portal really helps with the inspections because we do basically every 2 years, we would have to inspect the unit again. And if we do site a repair, we take pictures of it, we put it on the portal, and there's even an opportunity to be able to self-report repairs. So if it's obvious, you can take a picture of it, just put it on the portal, and that can get cleared off as a repair there. Otherwise, we'll come out to the property and just check it to verify it. So just a lot of little things that we've been hearing across the years from owners saying these are some of our problems with joining ACB, and we've really been able to minimize that and make it into a streamlined process to where we're trying to give financial incentives. We're trying to make the process very streamlined so that it is beneficial for people who may not have thought about the housing choice voucher program to say, let me give it a shot. And to kind of minimize that risk as well, we do have an owner assurance fund, which means that if we do a 2-year initial lease terms, okay, for the year, for the first tenant. So they come in, if it's a tenant that doesn't work out within that first 2 years and they leave or they destroy something, you know, we have an assurance fund that can pay up to $2,500 to be able to recoup any losses in that regard. And that would be after the security deposit is deducted and those expenses still incurred. But it's just another way that we're reaching out saying we hear the owner's needs. We want to be able to meet them, and we understand that it can say, hey, this is a risky new market for us to try, and we're just trying to take away some of that risk and say, we understand that it takes a little faith to get out there, but here are some incentives to join us. And from a monetary perspective, we think that it's really working well because we are seeing a lot of new owners join the program, and we are able to really pay very good rents right now, which is kind of an exciting opportunity for us now because of our small area FMRs, which is a fair market rents that we kind of based on how we can give a contract rent. It's still dependent on some of the tenants' income. They can pay up to 40% of their gross. And it's just been cool to see everyone participating in this program and to be able to really provide more options for low income residents of Philadelphia. So on top of that, we can talk a little bit about the housing opportunity program that Wayne can describe to us that really gets a lot of people's attention because it has higher rents and the higher sign-on bonus there. So Wayne, if you don't mind taking over.
How's everybody doing? Everybody on Zoom. So the housing opportunity program, thank you, Derek, for talking about it, introducing it. It really doesn't go off the beaten path of kind of what we already talked about, right? The same processes and things of that nature. The biggest incentive, though, I think our normal process typically takes about 30 days, right? So from the intake of a client, you select the client as an owner. So you identify that client, bring them onto the program, say, hey, I want to, me and this client, we want to be married, right? So we marry each other. You fill out this paperwork. I'll have Ms. Middleton talk about what that paperwork is. It's called a request for tenancy approval. Basically, you are basically approving this client to move into the unit, right? So you fill out some paperwork. You know, it's a little bureaucracy, you know, dealing with a government program, right? Some paperwork that you have to fill out. Once you do that, you move on to the inspection process, right? Move on to the inspection process, and then you move on to the lease signing. Typically, that takes about 30 days. We try to streamline that in our mobility program, and we try to cut that in half to about 2 weeks. We realize in the private market, right, you can probably identify a client and move them in the next day if you choose to. So we try to make that a reality, even going through a government program and say, hey, listen, you don't have to wait 30 and 45 days, things of that nature. We can try to streamline that process and get that client in there sooner than later, right? As far as the opportunity program, I know just being realtors and stuff like that, don't get it confused with opportunity zones and things of that nature, all those different incentives that's out there. We look at opportunity areas. When you look at opportunity areas, think about areas like downtown, right? Center City, things of that nature. And you might think, well, PHA is not going to pay what these downtown rents are. You don't want to, but $4,000 for a 1-bedroom studio, like, you know, or a studio or 1 bedroom. Yeah, that's a bit much, but
But it meets the client's needs, because downtown, they have more accessibility to walk, public transportation, if they were a little bit more on the outskirts of downtown, like Center City, like South Philly, you dig a little further out, rents do go down a little bit, but if you have a candidate who needed to be in this area, you could definitely help supplement that rent for this area. Right?
yeah,
Just depends on what's in your inventory, I guess.
yeah.
Okay.
I
don't know.
Okay. All right, so hi everyone, good morning. My name is Tanisha Middleton. I'm supervisor of the service department. And I just want to talk briefly about our owner briefings. So for any owners that may be interested in joining the program, we have a briefing every Wednesday at 5 p.m. from 5 to 6. If they're just walking, you don't have to sign up, you just come in, learn about the program. If you like to move forward with being an owner on our program or, you know, property management, you'll sign up for our training, our owner certification class, which is every Tuesday from 10 to 1. Yes. Yes. And the certification class is just one class. It's every Tuesday online. You don't have to come in. You'll just sign up through. There's a link on our website, and it'll take you to the Eventbrite for a ticket. And the class is, again, I'm sorry, from 10 to 1. And it's just one class. Once you finish the class, you'll get your certificate. You don't have to ever recertify. That certificate is with you doing your tenure on the program.
And that's for just like a homeowner that's renting their house or larger property management?
Yeah, everyone.
Oh, okay, so everyone has to take that class. To be on the program. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and then we have, for the owners, we have an owner portal. I always tell the owners, the owner portal is your best friend. You could do everything through the portal when you're coming onto the program. When you're coming onto the program, you'll complete your new owner application through the portal. The new owner application through the portal, so all the information that needs to be uploaded, we go through the portal. And our leasing coordinators, you know, will respond in real time, so we'll check the portal throughout the day. When owners need to submit their request for tenancy approval, which is the record that we spoke about, that is submitted, that's uploaded to the portal, we will review it and we'll, reply, let you know if it's completed, you know, if it's approved. Our inspections, you can check the status of your inspection. If it's failed, you'll get the inspection report through the portal. If you need to update anything, like Eric mentioned, you can post a picture of whatever fix it, say the light bulb need to be replaced, you can post that picture of the light bulb replaced for that inspection to be approved. We also have a resource tab where all of our resources, a copy of our owner training. If you ever need to go back to reference the training, you always have an opportunity to do so through the portal. And then we have our owner email address. So if any owners have any questions, we have dedicated leasing coordinators who are there to answer those questions. You can email owner services at any time, and we can answer any of your questions. And then our owner, just to touch back on our owner walk-in hours and briefing, we do a owner portal walkthrough through the briefing. During our walk-in hours. Our walk-in hours are every Wednesday from 3 to 5. So if you're an owner and you're having trouble with the portal, you need some assistance. If there's a form you have questions about, or you have any questions about your payments, you can come into our walk-in hours, the no appointment needed, just 3 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. We have a lot of owners that just not too technical savvy, maybe some older owners who've been on the program before we implemented the portal. We can assist them with uploading their leases. All the leases and records have to be uploaded in the system, so we do have kiosks that have scanners and we can assist the owners in uploading their information. So we have leases. If you have your own lease and you wanna draw it up, it works as fine, yes.
Okay. And then if we draw up our own leases, obviously you'll have supplemental paperwork, like. Sometimes we include like a bed bug addendum, or if I'm renting a condo, there'll be rules and regulations that the tenants have to abide by. So we attach all of that.
You would attach
We also
everything.
have additional documents that would have to be required and also be part of that lease agreement.
So PHA has, for right now, we do have like a standard lease that we use, and that's the lease that we send out. If you have an addendum, you wanna add to that or your own lease, when you send back your lease, you'll send that back as well. Okay.
So our lease is pretty standard to with the PA lease. Looks tight. Right, so my lease, right?
Oh, just to see like, okay, and she doesn't have a lease, she can just use our lease. The lease is sent once we confirm the rent and go through the rent negotiation process and we confirm the lease effective date. We'll send the lease to the owner through the portal. And then she'll just review the lease with the tenant, they'll sign and they'll upload it back to the portal.
Couple of questions. Okay, I wrote them down. The owner insurance fund, I'm not sure, Derek, if this is a question for you, but does that cost anything for the seller, or is that automatically apply if you do have a tenant?
It doesn't automatically apply. The paperwork would have to be submitted to the owner services department, but if you document that it's been in the initial lease term, like you said, any damages and security deposit, then that's something that we can process. Yeah, so just to meet those requirements, but the paperwork does have to start on the owner's end with property management.
And then I did a question. Yeah.
Talk about how much. Right?
Yeah, up to $2,500.
And it had to be within the first 2 years of the lease.
And then, how much inventory are you all lacking? How many more houses would you need to be able to provide?
Right, well, honestly, we're looking for as many as we can right now, and that's why we're very interested in what a collaboration like this looks like and being able to see if we're able to make this kind of common practice, if this is beneficial to realtors that are looking to get in this market. But yeah, we're talking about thousands of units that we're looking to bring to meet the need. We have a ton of voucher holders that are looking for places, and like I said, it's starting to pick up with the inventory now and with the rents and financial incentives that we're able to provide.
And just I know realtors, you guys are more number oriented, but don't hold us to any of these different numbers that we throw out there. These are just hypotheticals. Just think about it this way. We have about 1,000 people out there shopping right now, right? About 1,000 people shopping. We have about 20,000 people just on our program, just as a rotating number. We just opened our wait list maybe about a month ago, where ideally we want to have about 2,000 individuals kind of select homes over the next couple of months, things of that nature. So if you just took those couple numbers, it'll be about 3,000 vouchers out there probably between the next 6 months. Now, is all of that realistic that all 3,000 people are going to find a home, going to be on the street at one time? Not necessarily, but even if you cut that in half, it's about 1,500, right? So if you just look at it that way, do we have 1,500 available homes right now? I think you guys would answer that. No, it's not that. But those are real loose numbers. I'm just going off of, those numbers we put on papers and behind closed doors, kind of throw it out there and just have you guys kind of just chew on that in your meetings and say, hey, but listen, PHA is a possible option because these are some numbers that we kind of got it. Maybe, we can partner with some of our partners, right? So
Yeah, so at the end of the day, the demand is there. We have people that are looking for units that need units to get into. So I mean, it really doesn't hurt to kind of give it a try. And we do have free advertising on affordablehousing.com, which is an online website where the properties can be posted free of charge. And that's just another great opportunity that we think, from the realtor perspective, you all used to listing units, to taking pictures, and I think that's just a great way to showcase the housing stock that we want to show to make available. And again, that's just another advantage just of free advertising on your end to go close up there.
So right now, candidates who are in this program to look for housing, they go to your website, they know to go to your website and they look for available homes. How are they doing? Is that the only way to do it now?
They know. They know to go to affordablehousing.com. So when the vouchers are issued, they have a voucher briefing, and during their voucher briefing, they let them know that, hey, you can go to affordablehousing.com and look for units. But they can look anywhere. They can use social media, you know, word of mouth, however they want to look for the units. But affordablehousing.com is there for them. And we, during our certifications, our briefings, we tell the owners that, hey, we have affordablehousing.com, please upload your unit here, upload pictures, show pictures so that's in the Tennessee, and it's kind of, you know, the tenants will go in there and contact the owner through there.
Because we list our properties on the MLS. And so when anybody's out walking around town and they see a for sale sign or for rent sign, they'll call our main brokerage number. We used to have what we call 4 times. Since the pandemic, it hasn't really come back, but at any time we could have 2 agents on the desk answering the main number. And when I would take my turn on it, we used to get calls where people would say, hey, can you help somebody with a Section 8 voucher? And I used to say, I don't know Section 8 housing, but I can help you find something. And I would still like try to help them, but I wasn't familiar with the voucher. I didn't know, was there certain people that only took it? And just trying to navigate that on my own. I wasn't getting any information, and I talked to other agents and they just quite frankly are uneducated and don't know. So when we had them in to do the wait list sign up, I came that day and I learned a lot of information, and I wanted to get involved in the program because I assist landlords that I have 2 properties right now. We've had nobody in them for 2 months, and I would love to tell them more about this program to say maybe we could do that and get people in them. And they're in all different sections of the city. So in the past, I think there was always a stigma to Section 8. And I have learned. So I really learned that as us in the real estate industry, we have just been ignorant or uneducated, and we need to open that. So we thank you for coming today. And I look forward to learning more about it, but there is room in this industry for us to work with you, and there's no reason we shouldn't. Especially if we're representing the landlords and they can get extra money, because the thing is, they want top dollar, they want what they want. And if they can get a sign-on bonus, or if, you know, they're worried about the damages, there's a damage fund that will take care of that. These are things that once we're educated, we can spread that and hopefully help your inventory grow.
Now I'll let them 2 answer part of your question. 2 things where I always try to tell landlords, just even about advertising. So yes, we have affordablehousing.com and things of that nature. But even if you're advertising on MLS, Deloitte, Julia, Redfin, even if you just put a tagline just to say Section 8 approval, you know, I accept Section 8 housing, or we call ourselves housing choice voucher. But we all know, the world knows us as Section 8, right? So we're not going to get caught up in the phrase. But as long as the client knows, because one of the biggest mountains that a client has when they go out there in the world and try to find you guys as either owners, investors, realtors, is to find somebody who accepts the voucher. They don't know. So that's why they just call you and say, hey, do you? Yeah. I'm just trying, I'm just shooting in the dark. But if you have in that tagline that this is Section 8 approved, or I accept Section 8 housing, oh, I can call this person. Let me just see if it's still available. So if you just put that one tagline, you know, it is what it is. My last point is, even with that stigma, the one thing when landlords, I don't know, Tanisha, I don't know if I stepped out that time, told you about our Tuesday class. It's free to all you guys. One thing we tell clients or landlords about that stigma is more so, if you look at a private market client, right? Just a client that you meet walking down Walnut Street in a Section 8 client. We always ask, did you ever have an issue with a private market client. And if you say yes, you had an issue, you had to go to landlord tenant court, whatever the case may be, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna have no difference. The main thing is that you have a secure amount of money that's gonna come each and every month that might help you all the way through that eviction process, right? So at least you have, so if you look at that, just think about $1,000, right? If you agree on $1,000, I'm just throwing out some figures here. So don't look at the 30% that I'm about to try to give you, right? If you look at $1,000, $700 comes from PHA, $300 you gotta collect from the client, right? If you just use that example, everybody kind of get it. Where PHA, that's called a HAP contract, right? We go into an agreement that HAP, the Housing Assistant Payment, that's the agreement that you sign with PHA. The other is the lease that I think the gentleman mentioned. That's the lease that you sign with the tenant. You collect that each and every month. PHA sends you that $700 via direct deposit each and every month. So you at least know that you're getting that $700, especially if you got to go to landlord tenant court. You'll know in the back of your mind that, hey, listen, if I got to go through eviction, as long as that tenant is still residing in the unit, I got this $700 coming in each and every month. Where you know in the private market, once you send that notice of eviction, there go that payment. So, but I'll let them
And
go.
just to piggyback off what Wayne is saying, so you have this, your rent, your $700, you know, the contract rent $700. And in the private market, say if the tenant was to lose their job, they're not gonna pay you their portion. But here at PHA, we call it an interim, they can come in and we can reconfigure their rent, their income, and so instead of them paying that $300, maybe their payment is just going to be $50, and PHA will take on that $950.
Wow,
So-
that's great, that's great. Okay.
I don't think the question, well, let's say they don't do that, it's not. What happens then? I know you get it a separate from PHA, do you still go for the eviction? If you're not getting.
Yeah, that's up to the landlord to proceed as normal.
Like we got this.
Yeah, so that's their portion that they have to pay. If they're not paying rent, then you can proceed as needed in those cases there. Yeah.
And I guess any other side to that is, so you as the owner, you reach out to us and say that if this tenant is stopped paying, maybe we will go off of Ms. Middleton's notion and try to see why. Because maybe they lost their job. They didn't even know about the process. Because we go through the same training that we go through you guys, we go through the same training with the tenant, but that might have been 2 years ago. So maybe they forgot about this whole interim where we can kind of readjust their income and everything of that nature. So maybe if we sit down with them, we have a mediation, right? Where we can kind of mediate and say, well, what happened? I lost my job 3 months ago. Why didn't you tell us? We could have readjusted the income. Or we have something called a mutual dissolution of the lease that doesn't help the 3 months that you didn't get income. But maybe you don't want to go through the tenant, what is it called? The tenant divergent program and everything with the city. It doesn't help with any of those things, but hey, listen, if one of the best things you can do as a landlord tenant is sometimes you just want that tenant to go. So if you sign this mutual dissolution, what is it doing? It's dissolving the lease. That tenant can go their way, you can go your way. It's not an overnight thing, but we get that tenant a voucher. Maybe in about 60 to 90 days, they go find a place. Everybody's kind of happy, right? So those are all options. Somewhat, one is more harsher than the other, but those are options.
At the same time, we all know people, what if they decide to put it out?
Yeah, that's where that assurance fund comes in for an initial client for that. Obviously, longer than that first 2 years, you're gonna have to use the security deposit for that. But we're not, but it's kind of following off of what Wayne is saying there. We're not just saying, oh, you had this problem, we're breaking it up and they're moving on. Like they would still, in order to stay on the program, they would have to get into a repayment plan to make sure that they leave the owner whole as well. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, just for anybody who has questions, we have this flyer here about the walk-in hours that we have on Wednesdays. And we can scan this QR code here if you want to just register for the course to get that certificate. And it's not just that we just have the availability during that time. We have designated positions for owner liaison, for if there are any issues that owners are facing, if anything's escalated, they can go to that direct contact. We also have client liaisons as well that do help assist to match up tenants with a unit. So like in your example where someone's saying, oh, my property's been vacant for 2 months type of thing. On our program, we have people that are looking for units like right all the time. So those are times when our client liaison can say, oh, we found this unit for you. is this an area you would like to check out? And we're able to kind of be a matchmaker in that regard as well. So that's another service that we provide.
I do wanna, Zach, I do wanna show how so I work with a lot of Section 8 clients, because my colleague has a number of Section 8 or, voucher listings, and so they just kind of funnel in. And, I think just finding out how to use the MLS to find houses, because that's what our realtors are really comfortable using. I think that would be helpful for everyone to see how you can find houses on the MLS. I'm happy to show you after. But one of the questions I do have is if, say I buy a house tomorrow, how quickly can I get set up with your program? What's the?
Right. Yeah, so I mean, it's just really kind of waiting till that next Tuesday to take that course and get that certification. And from there, you can get we can accept a RAFTA, which is the request for tenancy approval after that certification. Is there any other steps that are involved with?
I don't think about the city stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, your rental license and then taxes are paid up to date.
Okay.
You take the course, and then after you take the course, you complete a new owner application. If you take the course and you receive your certificate, you'll get a vendor number. So you can complete a new owner application, you'll upload a copy of your certificate with that. If you have a property manager using a payee, make sure you have all that information. And we're reviewing applications daily, so the day you submit it should be the day the application is reviewed, and you'll get a feedback if it's approved or not. And you'll get that vendor number, and as soon as you get that vendor number, you can upload a record.
Okay, so pretty quickly,
Mhm.
because, we work with, a lot of investors, it doesn't, letting them know the steps and educating them on the steps can be really beneficial, same with like just working with our clients. Even though, I do have to say, whenever I call you for the clients, I get someone right away. I rarely, and if I leave a voicemail, someone calls me right back. So I really appreciate that. I know you guys have your hands full, so it's hard to do.
One of my last points, before I stepped out was, with the mobility, one thing we try to offer, other than the streamlined process, was of course the incentive for more money, right? We do try to target on the better areas of the city, like I was mentioning downtown. If we talk about, Western Plain, Mount Airy, Manio, Chestnut Hill, Roxborough, Francisville, all those different things. Those areas, of course, want to demand higher rent. Those areas are less property, better schools for school-based children. You can kind of run down the gamut, better supermarkets, all those different things. And we try to change the mindset for certain clients, like, hey, you can live here as well, right? Where it's just better opportunities, better amenities in these different neighborhoods. And that's the selling point actually for the clients. And again, even when we were joking about, the rents for downtown, what are the comps? What are the comparables in these particular areas? If there are comps in these areas, we can kind of make it work, right? If it's a 2-bedroom that's getting $1,800, if there's comps in that area, we can probably talk turkey, right? If there's comps, so that's where PHA, I know you were talking about a different stigma, but one of the stigmas on the owner side is that PHA is not going to pay. These days is, I think Derek mentioned earlier, that's really not the stigma, but these days where it's kind of like if the comparables, if the fair market rate or rent is saying that it's $1,800 for 2 bedrooms, PHA can actually sit down at the table with you and say, hey, listen, we may actually pay that. And we can sit down at the negotiation table and discuss such. So don't be so scared where you got your place in South Philly and you're like, hey, listen, I want $2,000, right? So yeah, so at least, have that open conversation, tell your owners and stuff that say, hey, listen, PHA might be, we call it competitive, right? That we can compete, with the fair market. And even if it's not, matching you right to a T, I don't think we're going to be too far off to beat that, right?
Tax abatements or anything like that for, the big one, especially with the property?
Not from our program that we would do that. You would have to kind of research everything with the city.
Yeah, we did tax abatements and windows and different things for the owners to entice them to bring tax abatements to properties.
Right. So we don't do any tax credits like that. We do have sign-on bonuses and we have an owner assurance fund for damages and bonuses. The owner assurance fund is up to $2,500 if someone leaves within the first 2 years, just to mitigate some of that risk of taking a chance and joining the program.
Actually, my concerns, were down from the non-certificated departments. But I
Well-
think such need, because most of the people were so grateful that they were on nice property. You know, that they really took great care.
Yeah, and I think that's great to hear, because a lot of times just saying, oh, don't service those people because they're gonna do this and that, but the reality is a renter's a renter, and some people are gonna, it's gonna be a risk regardless. Some people are gonna treat it great and you'll have your dream tenant, and others are gonna tear the place up, but I don't think it has to do with whether they're a voucher holder or not.
And that's actually a point that I give the landlords typically in trainings where I wasn't going to pick it up here, but she makes a good point where a lot of her clients, and that kind of piggybacks on your point where that whole stigma, where you always get, this dream tenant in any facet, maybe not, but that client that you might not start off so good. When you talk about, hey, I'm going to threaten to terminate, I'm gonna call even PHA because they kind of look at us as that, like that parent, that mom, dad, I'm gonna call PHA or right? That how they value or they covet that voucher and say, hey, I could ultimately lose this voucher, they kind of straighten up, right? Because they don't ultimately want to lose that. Now, will everybody be like that? You always have that bad apple here and there, but I would say the majority of our clients, they say, hey, listen, I don't want to lose this, because now, especially when you even talk about the gentleman in the back where he has that South Philly property, and they're all, from maybe the stadiums to the transportation to highways and everything of that nature. I would have never been able to get into this probably $2,000 unit without being subsidized by PHA, where PHA pays maybe $1,500 and we paying this guy $500. Or vice versa. It could be that with a working family, but it could always be reversed, right?
So so when we have people apply, part of what we look at are credit scores, we look at their debt. The same processes, I guess, would still be in place. So we clear them, because I've been in certain situations where I had a situation last year. A single mother was getting out of an abusive relationship, and she had just what she had to start over. She got about 3 months put down, and that was it. And her credit was tanked because this marriage had tanked it. And I had her write a personal letter pleading her case and say, look, I am starting from scratch. I will be good, get a co-signer. I had a really hard time finding just private landlords that would even touch that. And when we did get her in, they were so thankful and said the same thing, like she was very appreciative. She worked on cleaning up everything because she was starting over with nothing. And I worked so hard on her benefit to get her in. So those situations, I grew up with a single mom and we struggled. Like, I want to help other people and get past that. One of the things when I'm signing a lease that we write in is that they have to have renter's insurance and usually include the landlord in their policy. Does your program cover anything of that? Because that would be additional money outside of the lease to pay for renter's insurance.
We do not.
Okay.
We do not cover anything in regards to that. But as we said, we're not going to stop you from using your own lease agreement. So if that's something that you find to be best practice, we would certainly encourage it. You mentioned the credit scores, and that's something that with the housing opportunity program that Wayman runs, we have pre-screened tenants for that. So we're running credit checks on that. We're looking at landlord tenant court issues. And they're working families as well to qualify for that. So people that are looking for those opportunities where transportation can help them to employment and having things closer by is really a way for them to help the community that they're living in as well. But at the same time, landlords are welcome to do their own screening. We never stop that. We recommend that, obviously. You have to do what's best practice for your business. And we just kind of have our requirements that we're trying to make it smooth as possible to join along with what you're doing already.
Question, when you were set, that's landlord said that we said that we did sign a lease we look for that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
But once you accept the tenant, right, find it to that property, the landlord just said that it takes said that it had different dates, that was the full. Like, what you guys look for in that?
Sure.
Would it be
If 7 to 10 business days, he's already confirmed the rent.
from the client?
Right, so when that comes in, we determine the eligibility for that property, make sure everything's good there with the requirements that she was talking about, rental license and taxes, those type of
So we
things.
passed all the relevant lists, everything, inspection, the tenants and employees. But it said that he got an email this morning that they said.
You're waiting for a rent determination.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so the unit has passed inspection. So once the unit passed inspection, the file then goes over to our comes over to our owner services department, and we do a rent reasonable. And you will reach out to this owner via the portal to confirm the rent. Or go through rent negotiations, I would say
So
that's
that's
a better term.
for the-
Yes, rent negotiations are typically done for 7 days after the unit has passed inspection. We have up until 7 days to complete that rent negotiation.
Our residents, they're recertified every year, right?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
And if they have fixed income, they're recertified every 3 years.
In terms of tenants as it relates to immigrants, they need the permanent residence cards, like what if any special concerns or anything about immigrant populations?
No, we have, what was the form that they have to fill out,
The
citizenship, yeah.
Declaration of citizenship form, yes, they will declare their citizenship.
Most of
They could be a
that,
citizen, or they can have a permanent residence.
We can have mixed families on it, I believe we do need to have a citizen in the house.
Somebody has to be
Yeah.
a citizen in the household.
There needs to be a citizen in the household. And then if they're, depending how they qualify with their immigration status, they may not qualify for the subsidy, but still be allowed to live in the unit. So, but we don't want that to stop anybody. Those are kind of things that we walk everybody through on a case by case basis.
and that's more so handled kind of at our very beginning intake process. 9 times 10, by the time you guys kind of meet them, they kind of been past that, so that would probably wouldn't be an issue. I mean, just for your education process, you know, we can share that here, but by the time you guys meet it, they probably already qualified immigration wise, everything. They probably already handled anything that we probably tasked them to kind of go out and get as far as, you know, green cards or social security numbers or whatever they would need to kind of get. They probably already passed it, or it's pending, or whatever the case may be. But by the time you meet them, they probably.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because the fact when they have their voucher already, we've already done some eligibility screening on them to make sure they're qualifying for the program at that point. And we think this is really great timing for anybody to kind of get properties listed with us now, because the reality is we opened our wait list in February, and I think we had 36,000 applications. We did a lottery out of that and picked 10,000 people. And we're gonna start pulling off that wait list. And these are people that have applied recently. They're looking for housing. We're not dealing with a 10-year wait list or anything like that. So when we pull these people off, we want to have units on the program because they're going to be ready to go. They just signed up, and I mean, it really is a lottery for a lot of people in Philadelphia to get a voucher. It is not easy. So when they do have it, they want to take advantage. So if anybody is interested, it's a great time to join us.
And there's one other question, regarding the 2 programs, is this, do both programs have similar, I know it's a lot of times, dictated by zip code, right? What prices you can get, does the negotiations for the price, are they similar for both programs? That they fill in?
You're talking about the housing opportunity
Yeah.
program? Go ahead, Win.
Yeah, I think the negotiation. The negotiation itself is similar. I think where the hop is different is that we just have the ability to kind of adjust our pricing, where if by the end of this, if we send both Jennifers, right? If we sent you guys kind of our payment standard and saying, hey, listen, this is a list of all this employees in the city of Philadelphia, and this is what we pay. You look at that, and you look at what the gentleman mentioned for South Philly, or one of the biggest debates, if you're familiar where our building is at 19121. You look at what we pay for 19121, it'll probably be a little underwhelming in the saying, well, man, what they're paying on Cecil B. Moore or Girard Avenue, it's way above this. that's where kind of the housing opportunity program comes in at, because we understand where the market is at in certain zip codes. So that's where the renegotiation will probably, I guess, deter, because I think Derek mentioned earlier, where we can go kind of like 20% above where the FFR, and depending on what the client situation is, and depending on what that property is, do we even have the ability to go above kind of that 20%? But that particular part is situational, where we can go above that 20%, but that's where the negotiation kind of would vary.
During the negotiation process, we know it's a housing opportunity. And in order for us to get the request in rent, if we have to increase that payment standard, we can be able to even send the rent out.
Alright. Where are your offices located?
2013 Bridge Avenue.
And you said you have a flyer for us today?
Yes.
We have 2 flyers.
Share it with our potential landlords and all the information they need is on there.
Yes.
Make some good questions that they
They
have.
can come to our briefing plans tomorrow night at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for our owner briefing and training. You can scan the QR code to sign up for the virtual training to get certified as a landlord. It's here. And then we have another flyer as well that's informational on the PHA landlord monetary incentives there for the sign-on bonuses, the assurance fund that can kind of walk you through that as well as we discussed.
Hi, I'm on the Zoom. I have a question.
Hey, David.
Hello, everyone. So as a really new agent, I am mostly dealing with the tenant side of the housing voucher situation, right? So I understand that there are a lot of benefits if I had more listings to get my landlords into this, but right now I'm mostly on the tenant side. So what happens is I meet a potential tenant, they're looking for housing voucher, housing, I send them to affordable housing, and then it's more so becomes my responsibility to contact all the owners of these properties and figure out if they're willing to pay me a commission. Do you have a workaround for this? Do you have a database of owners that are willing to pay agent commissions that bring them tenants? Do you even need us involved on the tenant side at all?
He was, I believe he's asking, do some about commission?
Yeah, so sorry, I can reword that. I work on the tenant side mostly of this scenario, right? And I've got a lot of tenants looking for homes that accept housing vouchers. Most of the times, these landlords are not willing to pay agent commissions for bringing them tenants. Do you have any information on this? Do you know which owners are willing to pay agent commissions? Or do you not even need agents involved on the tenant side of this transaction at all? And we should only be focused on involving ourselves on the landlord side.
As far as having information, no, that is something that we probably can think about. As of right now, to answer your question in short, I don't think we have any information as far as what landlords. I know obviously on the MLS, if an owner is listing it on there, it will probably tell you there, but I know when you just find them on random websites, you know, Craigslist and Zillow and stuff like that, it's not going to identify. Rather, they're willing to pay, a 2%, 3% or half of, the first month's rent or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But that is something, we could, talk about maybe in classes, to say, hey, there are realtors that's out there that's assisting tenants. If you want to get your property rented quicker, you could work with, realtors and stuff like that and consider, sacrificing a portion of rent and stuff like that. So it's something that we could put in practice, but to answer your question for now, we don't have anything in works to kind of help, owners who are assisting tenants right now.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Right. Because the way that my process works right now is I'll meet someone who has a voucher and then I'll send them to affordable housing. They'll pick out a list of properties and then I will contact the owners and say, do you offer commission? Do you offer commission? Do you offer commission? And what it ends up being is hours worth of work and usually somewhat unfruitful. So I just wanted to know if you knew anything more, but thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, so I mean, I guess we're coming here really to recruit from the owner end and
Right.
provide the monetary incentives from that regard. But it is good to hear that tenants are being helped in that way. But as far as the commission and things, we find the best way for us to provide the monetary incentives are to the owners and to bring more on the program.
Right. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Davis, I'm gonna show, if it's helpful, how I look it up on the MLS quickly. Would that be helpful for people? How I use the MLS? I had to find
Yeah.
out what the password is, so. Give me a second. Okay. We're ready. Oh yeah, this looks so good. That was so helpful, like, just really helpful. So thank you so much, and we'll have a good document sent to our clients. Okay, cool. So, all right, we're gonna, oh, I can do it over here. So when I want to write, yeah, and then, okay, cool. So when I'm on write, what I'll do is I will go to search. You know, residential lease. And so if you scroll all the way down, you can add additional fields. So I added remarks, public and private. So what you would do is you go in here, you would search that field. Okay. What is it? Remarks. Public and private. So I already took it over. So you would add it, go back. That would be there. And so what does that actually let you do? It lets you search the listing for certain criteria. So what do we think people would put in there? Right,
Section 8.
Section 8,
Voucher,
8. Voucher,
affordable housing.
yeah, then I do. So just like any combination and then ABC, right? Or HCV, thank you.
But you put an asterisk before.
Yeah, you have to put the asterisks on each side of it, yeah.
On each side, okay.
So, and what we'll get here. You know, obviously you can, let's put, coastal city, Philadelphia. And let's say 2+ bedrooms. So we have 20, it doesn't say 28, 26 results. So all of these listings will have in the listing description either that they do or they do not accept it. So you might, so now you have what? So what I end up doing then is going through, making sure that they say something about. See it here? Go to the next. Section 8, right? So you just, it's a really nice way to narrow it down and find out which agents are offering compensation for helping find Section 8 housing. So that's how I end up finding it. If anyone has any other tricks or tips, I don't know.
Jen, that's perfect. That was
Okay,
exactly what I needed. That was just like so perfectly what I needed.
Cool.
Great.
Glad to help. All right.
Hi, can you repeat the first step again? I'm trying to take screenshots of the steps.
So what you're gonna want to do is go into Bright.
Okay,
All right, are you logged into Bright?
I'm getting there.
Okay, so you're going to, oh gosh, do you know what I'll do? Am I able to just do a quick video on your computer a little bit later and we can just send it? Okay, so
Hey, where did the video go?
I can just do a little quick tutorial and have Zach send it out, if that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, who's talking?
Monique,
Lanique, yeah, I'll send that out, okay?
thank you.
Yeah. All right, that's all I have. Yeah. Just don't let me forget that. Okay. Thank you everyone for.
Everybody want to take a 5-minute break, or a 2-minute break before we start the next class? Everybody good?
Yeah, no problem.
So. I used to get calls and I was like, I'm looking at. And I don't need to call that, I still. It's because they like, I'm like, just. And I mean, it's. Good name, and it was. Now that it's done that, I don't know where this. How to distribute it.
There's certain.
And a lot of Facebook groups, doing analysis groups, gatherings. So sometimes I'll put, hey, I know a landlord who services. So I think as well. Using it yourselves. Anything here?
I think that's one, I think it's really good. But it's right, sometimes they really don't have
We didn't say you know things. Like you said, I think with it, on the bottom line, you really want to, you know, it's in time to shout, it's nothing to say that. This issue is. It's what we have to do about Now, Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for turning out today. Our panel today is going from new to successful. I already forgot. I'm Jen Nelson. I'm with Assistant Team Leader with the Best Philly Homes team. If we haven't met, feel free to stop by, introduce yourself to me when you're done. And with us today, we have known on social media as Jen Moves Philly, Jen Toadvine, and known as Shippy in the House, Shqiponja Likaj. So we're gonna have the ladies here answer a few questions for us, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So save your questions, let us know. Intros, Jen, you want to go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, everyone, today. And all right, so my name is Jen Toadvine. I got my real estate license February 28th of 2020. So you can only imagine my first few months in this industry was very, very strange. My background is not in anything real estate related. I'm a marriage and family therapist by trade and worked in higher ed at my last job was at Penn. So I did a lot of was an associate director of the Penn Cap program there, which worked with first gen and lower income students, making their way through Ivy League institutions. So I have a lot of therapy and a counseling background, and somehow ended up in real estate
On your team.
on the She Moves team at this lovely brokerage. And I've been on the team for 3 years. I actually started as a showing agent for my first 2 years before I jumped out of my full-time gig at Penn, and I am my first full year in real estate as of February 2nd of this year.
Nice.
You need anything else?
I think that covers
Is that good? Okay, cool.
it. Yeah, you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so similar to Jen, I started just about 2 years ago, and I actually started full-time. That is because I have a hospitality background. So when I started, it was the height of COVID. And I was in GM for a local ice cream shop in Old City, if you can figure where I'm talking about. It was the Franklin Fountain. But we were changing things every day. I had reached my breaking point there. And I thought, why am I running myself ragged for someone else? And that's why I transitioned into real estate, because I figured I would be my own boss. So it has been a little over 2 years now. I am on the common shops team here at the brokerage, the TCS group. We have rebranded, that is correct. And it has been wonderful for me.
Great. Next question. What did your first 6 months to a year look like? What habits have you created or changed as you've evolved in that first year? Shqiponja, you want to go first?
So my first 6 months, like I said, I started as a full-time agent in the middle of a global pandemic. So I made sure, first of all, to have quite a bit of money saved up for this transition. To become a realtor, I'm sure you guys know, there are a lot of startup fees, the school, right, MLS, the local organizations that we have to belong to. And it was tough. It was tough. I made sure that, similar to Jen for showings, anytime someone needed some help, in terms of a showing 2 hours outside of the city, I would take it for $25, $50. Why? Not just for the money, but, so that I could learn how to handle interactions with clients. And in doing so, when it finally came to my own clients, I knew how to interact with them. I didn't have to worry about losing those relationships because they weren't my client to begin with when I was showing them. But yeah, the first 6 months, in summation, I just threw myself into everything. I attended all the brokerage meetings. I went out and shadowed open houses, because the way I saw it was that no education is free. And especially for real estate, you do a course for 2 weeks, and then it's one of the few careers where they then need you to figure it out. So I figured it out.
For 6 months, okay, I have 2 different types of 6 months, because my first 6 months was as a showing agent, which was definitely different from my full-time first 6 months. I am not a risk taker, so I feel like I have to be very, very calculated when I'm taking risks. So I did work a full-time job and did this work as a showing agent part-time. And so I don't like not knowing things. So it was really important for me to work on a team and to work with people who I trusted. And I could call maybe like 1,000 times a day and ask questions. They were probably like, Jen, stop. But I did it. I needed to ask questions. I asked as many questions as I could. I tried to gain, again, as Shqiponja said, like, as much information as I could in this business. I also really tried to allow myself to be okay not knowing everything and realizing I'm going to learn with each transaction, because every transaction brings something new that I had never done before. So that was really hard, changing my mindset and allowing myself to not need to know everything before I jumped in. And then my first 6 months full-time was when the market started to shift. And then we didn't require as much go.
Yeah.
And it was way more, how do I learn the systems that I didn't have time to think about the last 2 years. So that was a big change. And I still think I'm 3 years in and have so much learning to do. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm drawn to this, because there's always something new and exciting and like a shiny object to look at and to learn about. And that's fun for me.
It's true. My experience, I've been in and out of real estate for a little over 20 years, on and off. And I always said this was the one industry where every day I learned something new. Nothing is repetitive. It keeps you on your toes. And I've been in and out of other occupations, and nothing gave me that drive like real estate does. So when I got back in at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't realize how much I missed it. And it's so true what these ladies are saying. You have to learn to adapt and roll with the punches and change. You're forever changing, which I think makes you a stronger agent. You soak it all up, you learn it. Your job is to educate everybody. You share that information. So that's perfect. Thank you. What does going from new to successful look like for you? You want to take this one, Jen, first?
Okay, so that's a hard question. So I guess the first thing is, a lot of times I think people in the real estate industry view success as selling the most houses for the most amount of money. To me, I was kind of always someone who wanted to help people. So my biggest definition of success as a real estate agent is, how do I get my clients through this really stressful but exciting part of their life in a way that they have the least amount of stress possible, and in a way that they feel comfortable and supported, that they would refer other people to me and people they loved and cared for. So that referrals probably are my biggest.
You're a people pleaser.
I like people.
You're a people pleaser.
Yeah. in this business, but I would, so the things that I had to change a little bit to become more successful is boundaries, which is really, really hard. And also shifts kind of being someone who is always available to someone who was available when I was able to give my clients the time and attention for what they needed. And then another thing that became really important and still really hard for me is facts. Like I'm an emotional person. I'm used to talking to people about their emotions and their experiences and all that stuff. So I know everything about my clients. But when it comes to a real estate transaction, how can I give them the data and the facts that they need to make an educated decision? Because when we bring in all those emotions, it kind of gets a little bit convoluted and people aren't thinking. So whether that's, reaching out to Jim to have him run the numbers at $495 versus $490, and my client says, oh, it's like a $3 difference, who cares, right? So I think really providing my clients with facts helped me to feel more successful because it wasn't based on what I was doing, it was what I was giving them so that they could provide a decision for themselves. So that was all over the place. So there you go. All right.
Shqiponja, what does being successful look like for you?
So mine is a little different, actually. If you guys do follow me or on social media, I come from an immigrant household where success to me is providing my family, I guess, payback for all the sacrifices they've made for me. So being able to work in this industry where I am my own boss, similar to the way my parents came here and decided. I actually have a real estate background that I'm not sure many people know, but my parents, they worked for other people the way that immigrants and refugees are taken advantage of sometimes. So they worked low-end jobs, they were getting paid $5 an hour. And one day my dad dropped a shovel and said, you know what, I am tired of this, I'm gonna be my own boss. And so he bought, along with my mother, properties in Kensington and Philadelphia area for $10,000, $20,000 back in the early 90s. And we would move in as a family into this dilapidated home and we would fix it up. And when it was finally livable, he would sell it for a profit and we'd move again. So I guess my term of success is the American dream, as that definition is different to a lot of people. But for me, it is doing the same thing my parents did for my future children and being able to help other women and especially immigrants in this country achieve financial independence through real estate. These are things that we're not taught in school. No. And there's a reason why. And so I find it important in all that I do on social media and my interactions with clients to educate them fundamentally about why real estate. You can have all the cutesy TikToks and stuff, which I do and engage in.
But we also have your latest one on your rental property and how you pretty much were left a horrible situation, cleaned it up yourself. She documented it all on her Instagram. To turn it around. So now she's looking for renters, but you did all that yourself and that's success for you. It is. I'm continuing that tradition your parents taught you. Exactly. All right, ladies, did you always want to be on a team or did you ever think of being a solo agent?
I never was thought about being a solo agent. I think, like I said in the beginning, I don't think any education is free. So yes, there are splits and different dynamics when you are on a team as opposed to being left on your own to get 100% commission, but also, with that, you don't get the people that you can call 20 times a day when, everything is on fire and you just started and you don't even know what contracts to put together for an offer. So being on a team, I had learned from the best of the best. Gaurav was on my team, Kate, Boots, who's one of the best when it comes to renters in the Philadelphia area. They, along with my team members, did not treat me like just another number. And so I owe a massive amount of my success to them as well for their patience and their intelligence they so kindly shared with me.
Yeah, no, I like people. A lot, so thinking about doing this on my own, just, I didn't really think about it. I also, I'm on a small team, because I like knowing a lot about everyone, and I like feeling like a family on my team, and that's what that's what it feels like. It ends up feeling like a family, when it's good, right, when it works. Because, there's some teams that will be a good fit, and there's some teams that won't be a good fit for you, and so really, I think I knew I had to ask the right questions to make sure I was finding a team that would be a good fit for my personality, for my business goals, even though I think I can do a better job of actually knowing what my business goals are. So I think you have to know a little bit about yourself to figure out, hey, am I someone who wants to kind of do this on my own and learn that way? Or am I someone who wants maybe a little bit more mentorship, a little bit more celebrations as a group on the successes, and then complaining with each other about the things that are not going well, right? But I really like the team aspect. Again, I like guidance in that way, and that was really important for me.
One of the things, especially if you're a newer agent and you're on that fence of, do I join a team? Do I go out on my own? If you are going to join a team, don't just talk to the team management and the team lead. Ask for a list of their agents on their team and go contact them on your own. And ask them privately, say, can we grab coffee? Can we grab a drink? Ask them how long they've been on the team and their experience with the team. What did they get from the team? Because I see so many new agents just jump on a team because they thought, oh, this was the best money making one. And then I've seen them get lost in there and not get the help. And they didn't talk to other agents on the team before they joined. So I always suggest to everyone, make sure you're interviewing everyone, not just the team leads, to see what's a good fit for you.
I love that. That's really, really important.
People don't.
No,
People don't.
and they just assume
Mhm.
it'll work out, but
Mhm.
you know yourself the best,
Yeah.
which is the most important thing to know.
Yeah. All right, ladies, knowing what you know now with transactions under your belt, what advice would you give to a newer agent now that you wish you had known going through the beginning of your transactions? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Like, how did I mess up really bad the first couple of
Like I know from experience, Shqiponja and I did a rental deal, and she would call me and say, what's this? And I was like, okay, we're gonna walk through this. And we walked through, she was like, but you honestly were, and said, I really don't know. And I'm like, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I would help her to a point, and then I'm like, okay, you're representing that side, you now have to go talk to somebody. But those kind of things come up. So what things come up for you ladies?
So it's really scary, right? Because as real estate agents, we're dealing with legal documents.
You're talking about the documents was a big thing for us.
Yeah. Documents and livelihood and laws and all that. And you don't want to mess up. And so I think for what it took me longer to figure out is if you're on a team or if you're a solo agent, that's not just the people you need to be working with. You need to be connecting with your broker. You need to be finding your title partners, your home inspector partners, your lending partners, right? Your mentors, your home insurance people, right? Like there's a team of people that are going to be the reason why you and your clients are successful in this transaction. And if you early on feel silly calling them and asking them a question, it's probably not the right partner for you. Or you need to get real comfortable with not knowing. So I think the biggest thing I would have done, and I keep telling myself, is you don't have to know everything. You have one little slice of this big transaction. And so giving your clients the information in a factual way that they need so they can make a decision, and also connecting with your partners and collaborators for information, even if you think it's a dumb question. And
There are no dumb questions.
Not.
No dumb questions in this business.
Yes, I just had a transaction the other day where we're supposed to close on Tuesday and the appraisal got flagged. And I was working with the lender, the listing agent, and myself, and two of them have been in the business probably 45 years combined. No one had seen this done before. So we were like, oh, and if I thought I was dumb for not knowing that this could happen, well, that would have been really silly, right? So every deal is a learning experience. If you don't know, ask. and give your clients the info that they need.
How about you, Shqiponja?
I mean, Jen hit everything.
Documents.
Documents. But I will say that in addition to asking questions and being comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's so very important that you also put yourself out there and let your clients know, don't let them know that you know, just let them know that one thing that I think has made me successful is how reliable I am as an agent. There are many, like I said about being an agent, it's a very easy test that you just pass and then you're out in the field. There are a lot of agents that are in the same boat as us, that when you're new, you don't know what's going on. And sometimes those agents opt to just stay silent as opposed to going out and seeking that information and wanting to make themselves a better agent. So whenever I didn't know something, I let my client know, hey, I don't know the answer right now. I'm gonna get that for you. And rest assured, by the end of the day, they had a response from me. They had the proper answer from me that I got from my team, from my mentors, from Jen. And from Jim. I will say one time I called Jim when I first started, it was one of my first deals. And he was running numbers by me, and I think it was transfer tax or something of the sort that comes up. And I was like, what is that? And, you know, I joked with him and I said, because he is so full of insight and knowledge and experience, I joked with him that I was like, can you tell that I'm a new agent? And he said, yes, but you're here and you want more information, and that's all that matters. So it's about putting yourself on the line too, because you're not going to get better if you just are in your head and, you know, you don't go after it. One thing I always did, regardless of how silly I felt, I still made sure that I woke up every morning and then I reached out to people.
I want to give a shout out to Jim. If none of you have ever met Jim, raise your hand. Jim is one of our biggest cheerleaders. He supports so many agents. He is available anytime, answer questions. He has been an invaluable source for so many.
And an educator,
Yeah.
right? Which you need in the figuring out the finance piece. So,
You gotta put your squad together.
yeah,
is
you
what
do.
I hear you guys
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
If I was a new agent, I would interview all of the lender partners who are associated with this branch. And, you know, somebody might want, you know, an old guy with not that much hair. Somebody might, you know, relate better with a woman or any, you know, but you know, as a new agent, it's like, oh, I don't want to bother you. Well, if you don't bother me, I don't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what my takeaway from this amazing conversation is that there was a lot of diving off the diving board and hoping it was water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, and most people who don't succeed is because they're afraid. And everybody's afraid, and some people get into it, and some people face it head. And that's what these two guys do.
That's great.
And I mean guys.
Everyone's there. Everyone's a guy.
What was your main focus when you first got started that launched you into success? If you come on, you're like, hey, I'm gonna get in real estate, and you know.
I would say that I focused, I'm not sure if this is where the question's leading, but I focus on social media for sure. You know, you hear people say, don't be a silent agent.
And you have not been.
And I'm not a voice, and it's gonna be here. I made sure on social media that I let everyone in my circle know. I let people that were on the periphery of my circle know, and anyone who had a smartphone know that I was in real estate and that I am here to help however they may need. So coming from hospitality, I employed about 60 employees in the height of summertime who were college age students, and they saw my social media that I'm in real estate now, and the amount of Temple students that I've helped find apartments just from that, from them reaching out to their former boss and saying, hey, I need housing. Hey, my friend needs an apartment. We're moving off campus. It was not the most, you know, I wasn't starting with $1 million properties in the city, but I did get to that point. I have closed deals of that sort. How? From, you know, starting from rentals, establishing relationships with people and getting my name out there. And so all of that started with social media, which is a free tool that we have in our hands. Yes, marketing through mailers and, things of that sort is also very useful, but I didn't have the funds at the time. So what could I do for free to, get my name out there? That was Instagram and TikTok.
And you're damn good at it. It terrifies me. I'm so scared of it. I try, but I get scared. But yeah, like what are your free resources, friends, family, right? Again, not being an invisible agent. So for me, I went from a showing agent to a exclusive buyer agent on my team. So I was funneled leads for the buyers. And then I, through that 1 or 2 first buyers, ended up getting referred buyers, right? So I have some of my business that is through my team, and then also some of my business that's through my own referrals, which is lovely. And I just started taking listings, which has also been really nice to see how people think of me now when they think of an agent, which is all I can ever ask for.
All you want, that's all you want.
It's all, but you know what is terrifying? This is okay.
Oh,
So,
we have a question coming up on fears, so
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
we've got something coming up.
yeah, tell me what we're doing. Keep me in line.
But what you're saying also is about networking.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
one of the best advice that my mom ever gave me, I was probably early 30s and I was getting cocky and I was confident in the office job I had. I was in management and I just felt like this company wasn't seeing me for everything I could do. And my mom just had always been in management jobs and she just said, you are stubborn and get out of your own way. And she said, as soon as you realize your success is never going to be on how hard you work, it is always going to be on who you know and who they know. And as soon as I let that bullshit go, that I was in my own way, it all started to make sense. I was not one to ever ask for favors. I was not a good one to connect. And as soon as I just made sure everyone knew I was in real estate and I would call them up, hey, do you know anybody that's looking? Business started to just come in. So networking is where you're gonna go.
It's really easy, because that's what I've noticed too. It's really easy to say, that's so easy, that shouldn't work, I'm not gonna do it. Right? Because to do it is to say, I'm gonna take a lead and actually call people, have conversations, and that's hard work, but then it works. And we want to act like it doesn't, but it does.
And that's where our next questions are. Is what were you most fearful of when you started? And what got you past that? I think everybody has that. I've always done sales jobs, done Mary Kay, done Tupperware, my little side jobs. I've always worked big corporate sales jobs. And the knowledge that they share with us, it just all kind of filters back into real estate. And one of the times I had an instructor say to me once, what are you scared of? And I was like, oh God, they're gonna say no. And she was like, is it gonna land you in the hospital? And she brought up this scenario of a doctor walked in a room and there were 2 men laying in beds and said, oh my God, what are you in here? And one was like, oh, I didn't get the job, I applied for it. And the other was like, I asked a girl out, she said no, I'm gonna be in here for 3 months. And I was like, you're right. Somebody saying no doesn't land us in a hospital, and that's the worst case scenario. So you accept the no's, because the no's eventually turn into a yes. You just move on to the next person. And that was a big fear for me, was, oh my God, they're gonna say, but they're not gonna like me, because I'm also a people pleaser. Oh my God, they're not gonna like me. And then I was like, they won't, the next person's gonna love me. And I just move on.
Yeah.
So what were your fears?
Yeah.
I will also say, they may not all like you, but I don't like every client either.
You may have to make her one or two.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like, it is a two-way street in this industry, and that's something to keep in mind as well. You definitely need business. You need to do, this is kind of going way back to when you were talking about boundaries, but it is important. When you are your own boss, burnout is tough, and you're going to deal with tough clients and tough agents that have been doing this for 40 years, and they'll let you know they've been doing it for 40 years all the time. But you have to, set those boundaries for yourself, carry yourself like a professional that you are, And, respect will come from that. You have to respect yourself first. And I think, when it comes to fears, this is very silly to say, but, I had a really tough upbringing. I saw the way my parents sacrificed. I saw, a lot, and I sacrificed a lot. And I will say at this age, ripe age of 29, I'm not afraid of anyone but my potential. And when I made this leap, I made it with no net beneath me to catch me. And really, when you start seeing yourself that way, that the only thing that you should fear is how great you can be, how fast you can grow. It's a mindset, and I'm not one to listen to Tony Robbins and all those inspirational speakers, but I am someone who truly believes that the more you invest in yourself and the more knowledge you ascertain and the more that you schedule time for yourself and your growth, the rest follows. It really does.
Gender fear, nothing like.
So, yeah, I have two fears. You might have got one of them. Alright, so I started, my parents really pushed me, they kind of like tried to kick me into buying a property early on. And so I was connected with a real estate agent, and I was probably around 24, 25. And I was so young, and I was saving up the education that I don't use, all the like extra checks they give you because you like for a living, I would save that up so I could buy a home. So I was like financially like thinking about the future, so that was good, but I was dumped by my real estate agent, and it's because my price point was lower. It was taking me a little bit longer time to find it, and I understand that people have to have boundaries and kind of do business that makes for themselves. And there's a way to hand off a client to someone who might be a better fit versus making your client feel like they were dumped or they didn't have enough. You weren't going to make enough money for them to be important.
You were just a dollar sign.
I was just talking
Yeah.
and that's pissed off.
Yeah.
So I don't like being pissed off. So my biggest thing is I never want my clients to feel that way, and with that is, so I never want to let anyone down. Is a big fear of mine, is letting people down. And then on the myself part is I'm a type 1 diabetic. So I was told when I was in college and I was at the doctor's that I could never have my own business because I wouldn't get health insurance. And at the time, so that was stuck with me. Even though the laws have changed and you can get insurance with a pre-existing condition, that was something that was just like lasted. And so that is something that I'm still fearful about. So look, to be honest, how do I pay my student loans and how do I pay my health insurance? And I was able, with my team, I found someone that was willing to work with me on my health insurance. And so talking about and being open and vulnerable about what's holding you back in this business, what's not allowing you to be successful or to try it out with possible teams and things like that, those conversations led somewhere for me and allowed me to jump in and explore something that I had been holding off for probably 6 or 7 years. So,
And because a lot of people also in this industry, they think, oh, I'm self-employed. Oh, there's a lot of things that don't apply to me. Oh, I can't get a loan. Oh, I can't. But those things are changing. You just have to tell people this is what you're looking for, and you network, and they spread the word, and same thing, and then you get connected. That's what's great about this industry. That's awesome. How did you handle objections as a new agent and biased against new agents? Like when you were new, you were treated, and now you see new agents and
I laughed it off. It's so beautiful. Why not? Be kind. It's such a fundamental aspect of life, and I tend to. The reason I left it off was because I knew that it came from a place of insecurity. Unfortunately, there are some people that this is a very competitive industry. And what better way for myself to set myself aside to show people that I care, you are more than a dollar sign, and laugh with them and enjoy the process with them. I have a lot of clients that have graduated to be my friend. I have a client now, I helped her find her rental with her partner. Now she's married and pregnant, and I helped them find their first home. What a beautiful, like, experience to be a part of these huge life decisions. And I'm going to be at the housewarming party and the baby shower. And there are, you know, a lot of agents that see these people as just their next check, which understandably you have to make a living. But they're not mutually exclusive. You can do those in tandem. You can make that living and be a good person to those that you interact with, from your clients to other agents.
So I'm like kind of like bubbly and cheerleader like, and I'm on a team with Britt McLaughlin. If anyone has seen Britt McLaughlin speak, she's just very direct, very straight to the point, and exactly what I need in this profession, right? Like, I know how to do the people side of things. I love the people side of things. I can find out probably sometimes the first time someone finds out they're pregnant, somehow I know before their partner knows, and I don't know how that's the case, but I love that, and that's easy for me. What's hard is sometimes the directness, the tough conversations. And so for me, when I was having, oftentimes my clients are lovely, and the other side of the transaction has been more difficult. And so what I needed to do, I said, okay, I'm not going to be firm enough. I'm not going to be strong enough, and I'm not going to be able to say this the way I need to, but I know you can. And so I would call Britt and said, hey babe, can we do this together? And can we just like basically talk? Or I would role play with Britt, just because I knew she had the skill set that I was still trying to develop, and would help me communicate what I needed to, a hard conversation that I needed to communicate in a way. And then I would then soften it a bit, because Britt, I can't be full Britt. But it was really nice modeling, trying things out. I just having conversations over with your best friend in the industry, or your lender partners, right? Like, practice it. It's really important. So that's what I would do. And then, like, if someone's not nice to you, you can say, listen, this is a really important conversation that we need to have. Right now, it seems like we're not getting anywhere. So can we schedule another time to get back on the phone? Right?
And in those situations, I also, and I've had to bring this to agents' attention many times, they may be being a dick about things. And I've had to say, look, you clearly have a problem with me and you're not listening. I get it. But it's not about you and I, it's about our clients, and the end result is getting them in this house. So let's put that aside and let's resolve this right now for our clients. And you have to, some agents need to be checked, and they need to be reminded of that, because some get headstrong and they're like, well, I do this and I win every deal. And it's like, but every deal you also need some flexibility. So you have to know what to do. I'm biased that I have come across in this industry in over 20 years. Which surprisingly is an industry that is, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's mostly women.
Yeah.
The men and the way that they can treat us. I have been on more construction sites. I have had to play the dumb broad to get a question done, but I know some things. So when I'm up against a transaction where the listing agent might be this know-it-all guy who thinks he's schooling me on stuff, they don't know my experience, so I let it go on for a little bit. And then when it hit a point, I'll say, you know what? Let me tell you about my experience. And when I hit them with my wealth of knowledge, they usually apologize for the way they treated me. They usually say, oh, I've never come up against a woman who knows as much as you. Don't treat everyone like we're stupid, because the thing about this industry is everyone learns. They're gonna learn, the women are gonna learn, but we have to do it together. We have to work together. So I always tell everyone, I don't care if you're male, female, whatever it is, everyone should be treated equally. And the main goal is to please your clients and get them in. Don't hold grudges. Don't go in like, I'm the boss of this transaction. This agent's going to do what I do. This industry is all about communication, and without it, you're not going to succeed, because you need everybody.
You do.
You need them.
You really do. And you know what the craziest thing is like, it's not a copy and paste profession, right? Like, it's not like the same trend, like, you could have very similar terms, but your client's experience of that or what the kind of education they need around it is so different. So if it becomes like monotonous, there's something missing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's always different.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
And we have our last question.
Oh, what are you gonna say?
What's, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say too, I have a great story, similar. to
Yeah.
what Jane was saying. So this was one of my first transactions and it was with a male agent who had been doing it a lot longer than the 6-7 months that I had been doing it. But he misread, I was representing the buyers, he misread the agreement of sale and did not know that there was a 1% seller's assist on there. So it came the day before settlement, he looked at the Alta and his sellers were upset because he did not tell them about what was going to be on that Alta. And it ended up, he was telling me to take it off, we had not discussed it. Why would I discuss it when it's on a contract that's been signed off by both parties, it's executed, baby. So he ended up having to take that 1% seller's assist out of his commission. And when we went to that settlement table, he did not look at me. I went, the way someone acts does not affect the way that I treat them. I'm a professional. And so I went to shake his hand. He didn't shake my hand.
Oh, I love that.
How does that look to anyone sitting at that table? I'm the one who's gonna get a call from those clients one day. He probably won't work with those clients again. And the one thing about this industry is there is no HR.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're left to your own devices and similar to that person sitting across from you at the table. So I want to handle myself in a way that I am like Brit, direct. How sweet to compare myself to Brit. I want to be like her. But you know, you hold yourself the way that you would want to be treated, and you know, I can sleep at night knowing that I'm not a jabroni like that.
Our last question is, what's something you know now that you didn't know when you were going through training and mentorship? One point is just. She kind of touched on it earlier. Is there anything that stands out that coming out of mentorship and training, you were like, you should have embraced this? You wish somebody would have told you to embrace.
I think one thing, I wish I understood sooner in this industry is that everything is negotiable. Everything from your splits, from what your clients are entitled to. If a closed mouth doesn't feed its own, so if you don't ask, you're never gonna know. So when it comes to advocating for yourself and advocating for your clients, negotiate till, you know, someone tells you no, and then find another way.
How about you, Jen?
I have no idea. I think I went through them all.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think I did.
All right, Q&A. Who has questions for us?
Quick question for you. So how did you find like your mentor status? Did you like look for a mentor outside your team, or did you only have your mentors outside your team?
That's a great question, because what I like to do is I like to kind of sit back and I like to watch other agents. And when you get in real estate, you start hearing certain names thrown around. Feel free to call that agent up and say, hey, I'm new to the brokerage and I would love to meet you for coffee and just pick your brain. And you go meet them. Feel free, you see them at an event, introduce yourself. And you start to kind of get a feel, and you meet somebody and sometimes you connect with them. Sometimes you meet with them and you don't. You go on to the next person. It's always about introducing yourself and looking for that. If there's a team that you idolize, like I'm on the Best Philly Homes team and Dan Ritter is my team lead. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but Dan is one of the most jolly, lovable people you've ever met. Dan and I do good cop, bad cop a lot of times because I am I will tell you like it is. Dan wants everyone to succeed, whether our team or not, and he just loves everyone. We have agents that just come up and meet him for drinks and just take him out and just want to pick his brain on what they think. And that's really the way to do it. You just have to introduce yourself and work around it. Anything to add to that? Is that about?
I would say kind of like finding a therapist. You probably don't want to find a therapist who's the exact same person as you are, because they're not going to stretch you in ways you need to be stretched. So I think there's like a couple forms of mentorship. Who are the people that when this is tough, are easy to communicate with, and I can just kind of shoot the shit with them, right? And then there's those other people that, who are the agents that have quality or have, you know, I just went out with someone who's doing commercial real estate, because I know nothing about, you know, commercial real estate, and I was like, can we go get coffee? And he's like, Jen, if you have any questions, I'm available, just give me a call, and I was like, really? And so finding the people who have either experience or skills in areas that you would like to sharpen, and just.
And that could be home inspectors, insurance, mortgage lenders.
Yeah.
All of them, they all have different knowledge and they're familiar with realtors. And they can even sometimes even suggest, say, you know what, you'd be really good to go talk to this
Yeah.
person. And have them do an introduction for you. That's always a really good one too.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was surprising. I thought this was fantastic, and for me, the big thing, I'm trying to put myself in the place of people in this room who are getting started, and those days are long past for me, but what? There's people sitting out here who aren't yet, okay, and they're very different than you. And so I don't think the message is that this is how I did it. I think that there's some consistency. Everybody has fears. Everybody, I feel like the two of you identified your strengths and leaned into this, but also identified your weaknesses and found people to help you overcome them. That to me is like, but your strengths are not the same as
Right.
everybody else's strengths, but it doesn't matter. The point is, we all have our strengths that we can lean into, and we all have our weaknesses that we can get people to help us with. And I am hearing that asking for help is a sign of strength,
Yes.
not a sign of weakness. So everybody, I mean, those are my big takeaways. And I thought you guys did fantastic.
Great.
You know.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Feel free, any questions at all, reach out at any time, get our contact info, and
Yeah.
we all do events and we're.
That's
Showing up.
okay, actually, come to the events,
Yeah.
seriously, because you get to just know each other and not like, Shen, how are you, what do you do, what do you, it's like a much more fluid way, so that like extending, hey, I'm getting coffee right after this, can you come with me, just becomes like way easier than like, hi, I'm Jen, do you want to get coffee, right? It's like, you feel kind of nerdy. They do love the talk.